Are we filming?
Yeah, we're filming.
You didn't know that.
What do you think a day in middle school is going to be like?
Locker shutting, going to different classes, eating lunch, going out at different times. I would get it done, like I would get some done at this part. 4 out of 6, 2, 2.
So you'd split it up.
Yeah, and if we were due at different days, then I would split it up between days.
Another shift is like thinking about the narrator point of view and then like the author's point of view. We were talking about this earlier and you said something really good about like, were you comparing Anne Frank to like the I Have a Dream speech?
I was comparing Matilda.
Oh, Matilda.
And then the I Have a Dream speech or Anne Frank would be like good examples of like author POV versus narrator POV.
Okay, so like what does that mean? So if we're analyzing the author's point, if we're looking at point of view and the book we're talking about is Matilda, whose point of view are we talking about?
We're talking about like Matilda.
We're not talking about Roald Dahl.
No.
Not relevant. Just the character.
Right, like who the author is does not matter to the text.
Right.
It's the narrator. It's the person telling the story.
So how does that change in a big way in middle school? How does the author actually become as important as the text?
And I think because in middle school, when you're looking at like Letters from Birmingham Jail or the I Have a Dream speech or Anne Frank, like you're looking at who is telling the story as a real life human really matters. Like the totality of their experiences is what matters. It's not just the snippet of their life that they're talking about. It's like the entirety of their personhood.
And like the world that they live in.
And the like sociopolitical context of the time in which they exist. Like all those things matter. Like Roald Dahl could have written Matilda in 1920. He could have written it in 1960. He could have written it in 1980.
It didn't really matter.
It wouldn't matter. But like when you think of like the Civil Rights Movement or World War II, or I mean, and we could look at the pre-Columbian era, like we could look at any of these like epochs in history.
The author's point of view like starts to actually matter. So that shift is like looking from the narrator, like, okay, we're looking at this book from Matilda's point of view versus we're looking at this from like Anne Frank's point of view. Or like you could even talk about Animal Farm, where it's like, it's not just about pigs.
Oh my God.
and old horses and farmers. Okay, so in a nutshell, we just dumped a lot about the reading shift, but what you're looking at is like specifically what kids grab out of reading is very different. It goes from like, this quote tells me this. This quote, sorry, I keep going back to Pigeon. This quote tells me that Pigeon is excited. This quote tells me that Pigeon is like managing his emotions. To this quote demonstrates that Pigeon is excited and therefore it shows that he is preparing for, like, you're going to connect that to a theme. Okay, so like you add a piece onto that puzzle. And then we talked about text structure, whereas in elementary school it's going to be mostly just like identifying text structure. But in middle school it's going to be more along the lines of analyzing text structure. Like you identify it, you know what it is, and then like in middle school, why is that important? What is significant about this piece of text structure? And then what we were just talking about, the narrator point of view, like Matilda versus Snowball. All right, very different things. Okay, so that's reading in a nutshell. Let's shift to writing. Writing fundamentally changes. And this is kind of convenient for us to talk about because 5th grade and 9th grade, we're literally like looking at other sides, like what does it look like for you? What does it look like for high school? So let's talk about like argument for a fifth grader, what would that look like? Is it argument that you're teaching, or like what are you having kids write about?
It's an opinion paper. It's not really an argument necessarily. Like, you might be teaching them what argumentative writing looks like, but ultimately what they're writing is like, I think this and I back it up with this. Like, this is my side of this story. And you might gently introduce like a topic, like trying to think of like what would be like like something that fifth graders care about. Like, I think we should be allowed to
Cell phones
or like uniforms.
Yeah.
We have to wear a uniform versus we don't.
Yeah.
You know, and they would present both sides of the uniform debate and they would come up with it. That's like what you would work on in fifth grade.
It's really funny when you said I think, because with my ninth graders, whenever we write argument and they're writing I think, I tell them, maybe this is too harsh, but I tell them nobody cares what you think. Like, nobody, like, that is the worst way to start an argument. You want to just state it. Like, I think that we shouldn't have to wear uniforms in school. Like, no, you just state, like, uniforms should not be required in school. Like, you never say I, because that is immediately weakening your argument. And I always tell them, like, nobody cares what you think. Like, just make your argument and extract your evidence and support your argument. We know it's what you think.
I think the big shift here is, like, in fifth grade, you're, like, building their toolkit, right? So you're like, this is a screwdriver. This is a hammer. And, like, they have to know what all the things are.
Yeah.
So they know that, like, when I see things like I think, I am looking at this. And you're, like, teaching them that because they don't know it. But by the time they get to ninth grade, now it's assumed, and I think this is that gap we're talking about in writing. This is that difference. Is that I assume you know what a hammer and a screwdriver are. I assume you know all the tools in your toolkit, and you shouldn't have to rely on your hammer all the time. You shouldn't need to pull out I think, I feel. You should have different ways you can say that now.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But I think in fifth grade, it's teaching them that, like, when I write this way, this is the structure I'm following.
Yes, the whole formula, like, oh, geez.
Very formulaic. Like,
I'm not going to remember the acronym. There's dozens of acronyms for an
so
argument
many
paragraph.
acronyms.
But yeah, main idea, introduce evidence, give evidence, support evidence, conclude. Like,
oh, like the tag 3 plus me.
Yeah,
that's like
there's
turn
at
it
least
around.
5 different ways to say that.
It's like turn
But
it
the
around,
formula.
answer the question, give 3 examples, and then state why you agree or disagree with that thing. That's like a common like writing formula.
Yes, yeah. I think one thing that this is getting at is the difference in tone. In all of the writing standards in like the upper grades, they tag on the language that you have to maintain a formal style and tone. That is like tagged on to half of the writing standards, except like the narrative standards. And I don't know at what grade they appear.
It's not 5th.
It's not 5th, but yeah, like maintaining a formal tone and style. So like changing your register, like kind of like code switching. Like, I'm going to now try to sound smart, and I'm going to edit the way I write to sound very smart and formal and have a style. So that is definitely something we look for in the 9th grade. I always tell kids, like with style, like your writing should sound like you, just like the clothes you wear. Like whether it's a narrative, like whatever kind of writing you're doing, like that is style.
I like that.
It's the clothes that you wear. Like, you don't dress the same as your peer, so when you write, it should sound different. Like, you don't talk the same as your peers.
Right.
You have your own style of talking. It's the exact same theme in writing.
And, like, I think a good example for high school when we're talking about tone to draw on your, it's the way you're dressed. There's a difference between, like, I'm writing a poem or I'm writing a story and I'm casual.
Yeah.
And I'm writing like an academic insight. I'm in a suit. I'm on a job interview.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yep. So we look for that, we push for that in high school. So we've got like, all right, to recap, we've got like constructing opinions, constructing and supporting opinions versus constructing and supporting an argument. Kind of like you take the I out.
Yeah.
Like it's no longer I think this, it's like you just say it and then you support it. I know a big thing with evidence in high school is like analyzing the quality of the evidence. Like they're like good evidence and bad evidence becomes a thing. Like, oh, you supported your argument, but like this is not the best piece of evidence to do that. You supported your argument with bad evidence. What does that look like in 5th grade? Is there good and bad evidence?
So in 5th grade, it's more like, here's a text. Me, the teacher, I've already vetted that text. So the evidence you're drawing is going to come from pieces of text I've already given you. So I've sort of culled, and maybe you have 3 things, and you're going to pull evidence from those texts, but I gave you those. I think the big shift, especially in middle school and definitely in high school, is now you're looking for your own texts from which to draw evidence.
Ideally. A lot of high schoolers cannot do that.
You know,
I've definitely given kids like made copies of pages focused on places where evidence is, like identified good evidence, bad evidence, and like here's 8 pages of the book with 15 chunks of text picked out. Your evidence is one of those 15 chunks. That's
wild.
Yeah, I guess that's a big learning gap, something that kids are definitely not mastering.
That's something that I remember distinctly. This is going to date me and you. It's going to date us. But, like, do you remember those first research papers you had to write where, like, you had to go to the library and then you had to use the card catalog to look up books on the topic you're researching.
And then skim and scan.
And you had to read them and handwrite your citations on like index cards, which you then reference later when you put them together.
Yeah, we did the same thing. For research papers, it was like you had to generate 100 note cards with 100 pieces of, or like, I don't know, maybe it was only 50. But yeah.
So what I feel like the big gap happening is that we haven't modernized that effectively to teach kids. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I just wasn't doing it in 5th grade.
Well, this also gets to like reading stamina, which is something we kind of glazed over. We didn't touch on in reading, is that like so many kids are coming up to 9th grade and they have 0 reading stamina. Right. Which is definitely something that is going to make all middle school reading hard. If your 5th grader cannot sit down and read for 30 minutes, they are in trouble. Yeah. Like that's the kind of stamina they're going to need to not just be completely overwhelmed and bogged down by
And you need to identify the cause of that lack of stamina, because it could be an attentive thing. Like, I just can't pay attention without instant gratification for this long. But my fluency and my comprehension is fine. My content knowledge is fine. Is it functioning, or is it I lack strong academic vocabulary? So when I'm trying to sit and read my social studies text for 20 minutes, it's hard because I can read these words fluently. Like, I can sound them out, but I don't know what they mean. So what I'm reading is confusing and I'm getting really tired.
And disengaging. Like, yeah, I'll read 5 pages of something, and if I don't know what it's talking about, I'm like, I'm done reading.
I have mentioned this
I'm
in
not interested anymore.
Past episodes, but when I had to take economics of education, I was like, can't read this.
Can't read this.
Is this what it's like? I'm like, oh God.